The more you're talking, this is why we don't like listening to you talk basketball. Because what you're saying, Max, is this. This is exactly why. Because what you're saying, let me finish.
You in the debate.
Let me finish. Let me finish. You couldn't if you prayed to. If you prayed to, you couldn't do it. Here's the point,
I don't
Max.
have to pray. I'm doing
the
it now.
point is this. You sit up there and you seem like somebody who would be completely satisfied seeing the Brooklyn Nets play by their damn self. We want competition. We don't want to just sit up there. We don't want to just sit up there and see like a damn virtual layup line or some and one game or something like that. We want to see competition. We want to see you go up against a monster. Two monsters going up against what you got. The level of competition matters.
So you don't want to see the Nets fully healthy, is what you're saying.
Listen, I didn't say that. What I said is when you talk about what's more anticipated, the reason why is we already anticipate what the Nets are going to be, because even without Harden, we're seeing some semblance of it. When the Lakers come on board, once LeBron comes back healthy, if they what we anticipate they will be, now you got something special to look forward to. You're waiting for the encounter. Somewhat similar, Max, to why I keep salivating for the Lakers going up against the Clippers. I want LeBron against Kawhi.
Yeah.
I don't want LeBron against
Nurkic.
But
we know the Lakers fully healthy.
LeBron
They're
against the
defending
Joker.
champs.
I want LeBron against Kawhi. And I want LeBron against KD. I want Kyrie against LeBron. I want that stuff. That's why you anticipate it. Could you imagine if the finals come up and it's KD against LeBron again? Oh, and now you got Kyrie who would love to beat up on LeBron if he could. You have any idea the storylines that come with that? That's what we're looking forward to.
We all want to see them both come back. They're both
more
anticipated. Which is more anticipated? LeBron coming back to a team we already know how good they're going to be. They're the defending
and Kyrie
champions.
without Harden going against LeBron would be appealing.
Or James Harden coming back to a team that we really haven't seen yet. We have not seen the Brooklyn Nets at full strength yet. I want to see that. I want to see it heading into the playoffs.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I'm anticipating LeBron James even more. Forget making it to the championship. I want to see how the Lakers going to look just coming out of the Western Conference. When you look how hard and how better teams have gotten, the Utah Jazz, the Denver Nuggets, Stephen A., I was wrong. They still balling without Jamal Murray, okay? The Phoenix Suns with Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Cam Johnson, Bridges, DeAndre Ayton, the way that they're playing phenomenal basketball right now. And my favorites that are in the Western Conference right now, the Los Angeles Clippers. I said this before the season started, that they needed a floor general. That's all they was missing. And they went out and got Rajon Rondo. Oh, the guy that they took from the Lakers. The Lakers didn't sign him back. They took him for granted. And since the Clippers got Rondo, they have been a completely different team. Hell, not just the team. Paul George has been a completely different player. That's the Rondo effect. Reggie Jackson. So I'm anticipating the Lakers and the Clippers meeting up in somewhere in the Western Conference before we even think about the finals. And this is why I'm anticipating LeBron James getting back, because I want to see that matchup.
Hey, Max, you want to faint, Max? You want to faint?
Go ahead.
If LeBron James goes through the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George and Rondo, and then he goes and beats Kevin Durant, along with Kyrie, and James Harden. I'm not going to go that far. He ain't going to be he'll never be number one to me over MJ. But I will say this. I won't have a critical word to say about LeBron James for the rest of his career.
If
he wins this chip and he goes through those two, he goes through a fully loaded Clippers and a fully loaded Brooklyn, I will sit up there and I might have to bow down to the king. I might have to bow down to the
James
king. I might have to do it, Kendrick.
Goes through not just the Clippers, but there's a chance he'll have to go through the Clippers, the Suns, and the Jazz before he even gets to the Nets. If they're all healthy, Stephen A., and the big three are healthy in Brooklyn and LeBron wins the whole thing, he has a hell of a case against Jordan this year. That's because if the Nets are fully loaded, I don't think they can lose. But I'd like to see it because we haven't seen them fully loaded yet.
Well, here's the good news. LeBron is coming to a city near you, Stephen A., so you can see him live in person.
Bow down to the king.
Yeah, how about
I had to bow down.
Early in the first against the Clippers, he went up for a three, fell back awkwardly, stayed in for a few minutes, then ultimately left the game with back spasms, but it appears he hurt his ankle when he fell. Now, we also heard LeBron James say earlier this week he's not 100% and doesn't know if he ever will be. He's out with a high ankle sprain, expected back next week. Stephen A., how far can LeBron and Anthony Davis take the Lakers?
I'm scared right now. I'm scared for the Los Angeles Lakers. I want to put the basketball world on official notice. I don't even know if the Lakers are getting past the play-in game.
What?
I don't even know if the Lakers are playing the play-in game.
Wow.
They don't look good. They don't look good. They don't look good at all. Anthony Davis, listen. We all know when healthy, the guy is all world, but everything that can happen seems to happen to him. It was his calf injury, then it looked like it was his ankle last night, early in the first quarter, and then after that we hear that it's back spasms, for crying out loud. LeBron James comes back, he plays, he says he'll never be 100% again. I believe that's hyperbole. I don't believe him for 1 second, but he could be talking about, I'm not going to be 100% again this season. I'm looking at the fact that Rondo is no longer there. He's on the other sideline with the Clippers. Even though Dennis Schroeder, the bottom line is they're better offensively with him on the court, but porous defensively when he's on the court. They're better without him defensively. Kyle Kuzma, it's like bipolar disorder, for crying out loud. He's scoring 1 minute, the next thing you know, he disappears for 3 quarters. I'm very concerned about the Los Angeles Lakers from that standpoint alone. But then when you look at the rest of the Western Conference, what is there to say? Utah, Phoenix, the LA Clippers, the Denver Nuggets, Portland, you can't sleep on them. Dallas, you can't sleep on them. With Luka averaging 29, 9, and 8. My God, there are reasons to be concerned about the Los Angeles Lakers. And right now, I am officially in panic mode that the Lakers might not even make it out of the damn play-in game.
Wow, the defending champs. Max, where are you on this?
It is panic time in LA, but I don't think it's because of the play-in game, Stephen A., because the odds that they would lose 3.5 games in the standings are slim. So if they do play in the play-in, it will be play-in games, plural. And I don't believe if they were to lose to the Trailblazers or the Warriors, whoever they'd have to play in that first game, that they would then also lose to either the Grizzlies or the Spurs, whoever they'd have to play in that second game. So I think they will be, I'm confident in saying, if LeBron and AD are playing, they will absolutely be in the playoffs. But here's the thing, guys, and this is why it's panic mode. This is why it's panic time. I don't see how they get out of the first round right now, and I'm a Lakers fan. How do they get out of the first round? Because if they do play a play-in or 2 in order to even get there, or even if they don't, let's say they hold on to the seed they are presently holding on to. They play the Clippers in the first round. Like if they play in the play-in, depending on where they wind up, 7 or 8, they're either playing the Jazz or the Suns in the first round. Those teams have chemistry. They're in lockstep. You're going to just throw everybody together and beat one of those teams? And don't let it be the Clippers. I think that's the worst matchup, Stephen A. Kawhi, they've been load managing again, maybe not to the extent that they once did, but they're load managing again. He can't play full quarters. In fact, Ty Lue is complaining about how it's messing up rotations and stuff. But he'll be ready, and Paul George will be looking for redemption, and they got Rondo and everyone else you just mentioned. How are the Lakers, who don't have Schroeder until the end of the year, who are even playing without Taylor Horton Tucker? Talk to Lakers, they'll tell you we didn't have a point guard or anything resembling a point guard. No LeBron, no Schroeder, no THT. AD goes down, obviously an ankle. No, back spasms. What? How are the Lakers going to get out of the first round? The first KD won MVP during the regular season, and I said, well, wow, and he really deserved it. I guess LeBron's not the best in the world anymore, and then the playoffs came, he proved me wrong. He's still the best. And then Steph did it. Same story. The league has changed. In Steph Curry's world, and they won 73 games, and then LeBron proved me wrong again. And most recently, Stephen A., I don't know if you remember, but let me remind you. I know your memory is fuzzy on these things. I actually said that Kawhi Leonard was better than LeBron because LeBron was hurt, getting older. Kawhi just won Finals MVP. And then the dust settled from the playoffs, and I was proven wrong again. So you would think, after being burnt by LeBron so many times, I would have learned my lesson, but you would have thought wrong. It's straight from the horse's mouth. LeBron says he doesn't think he'll ever be 100% again. And why is that relevant now? Well, in the regular season, I didn't think he was the best player in the world, game for game. I thought that was Embiid. And then I thought it was James Harden. And Stephen A., I don't see how the Lakers make it out of the first round given all the injuries. He will not have the playoffs to remind everyone. And next year he'll be 37. If James Harden, for example, comes back and is healthy, and the Nets go on a rampage, as I anticipate they will, and James Harden is the reason, given the way he played in the regular season, he may have taken the crown. I think LeBron is in decline by his own admission.
So, you know,
It's sad, right?
I'm just, it's hard. I mean, there are so many times that I think his basketball, the license to talk basketball should be stripped from him. It's just really amazing. If you're talking about there's a decline in the level of athleticism because LeBron doesn't have the ups on a continuous basis that he had when he was younger, okay, I get that. But this would be the same Max Kellerman that applauded the greatness and accentuated the greatness of Michael Jordan because of how he adjusted once his athleticism diminished to some degree, but there were other elements that came shining from his game. He also applauded Kobe Bryant for the same thing, but we're ignoring that from LeBron James. LeBron James is averaging 25 and nearly 8 assists and 8 rebounds per game. At age 36, in his 18th season, he got his knee twisted up against Atlanta a couple of months, a month and a half ago. He's missed more than 20 games. We get all of that. And because of that, we're going to look at him and we're going to say there's a decline. We've already acknowledged that if LeBron James were healthy, first of all, they wouldn't be battling for some playing spot. If LeBron James were healthy, the Lakers would be a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. We all know it because that's pretty much where they were before he went down. We understand that. We understand it even with Anthony Davis and with the other pieces that they have on the Lakers, which isn't much. If LeBron was healthy, we'd be talking about, are they going to the conference finals? We know this. We know this. Max had them as his favorites to come out of the West because of LeBron James. And that was a month and a half ago. Okay? So all of a sudden he's out due to an injury. And the person that you had going to the finals, there's slippage. It doesn't make any sense. Here's the reality of the situation. LeBron, a matter of fact, just yesterday, I talked about a bunch of names. Who did Max Kellerman have as the best point guard in basketball?
LeBron. He also had him as the most terrifying player when you were off Kendrick Perkins, who is going to join us in
These are all the things that Max said. Now, I brought up stuff he said weeks ago. You just validated what he said 24 hours ago. Yeah. This is
None
Max.
of that's contradictory.
Okay, so again, the point that I'm making is you're talking about slippage. What slippage? In the end, your impact on the game, your numbers, what you bring to the table, all of those things matter. And last time I checked when it comes to LeBron James, it's pretty much the same, which is why we marvel at the man's greatness. And what each other's going to do instinctually. And I don't think that that's the case right now. And I think that the longer LeBron James is out, the more it's going to affect his team. I think that even if you come back, again, I'm not encouraging him to come back if he's still injured. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not going that extreme. But I'm saying in terms of waiting until you're absolutely, positively, 100%, well, damn it, it might need to be when you're at 95 because time is running out because the Western Conference is pretty damn tough. And the fact that they've been playing together, Utah, even though Donovan Mitchell's out right now, Utah's been playing together. Phoenix has been playing together. The Clippers have been playing together. They know how to manage Kawhi Leonard's time and, you know, his games played and games where he's absent from playing, et cetera, et cetera. I think when you look around the Western Conference, the level of cohesiveness and chemistry that other teams are building as the regular season wanes and the playoffs approach, I think it's going to be a pivotal thing. And with LeBron, considering how ball dominant he is in running their offense from a point forward position and the way he's able to bring things together for the team, he's going to have to work off some of his rust. Anthony Davis obviously is going to have to do the same, and they're going to have to get on the same page. Those are 3 components that you have to get together before the playoffs begin. And based on what I'm seeing in the rest of the West, I don't think that time is necessarily on the Lakers side and they can afford to just, take a laissez-faire attitude towards it. I think that there's a level of urgency that needs to be attached to it.
Not if it means bringing LeBron back at less than 100%. Look what happened to James Harden with the Nets. Hamstring issue. Seems like it's okay. When it seems like it's okay and the stakes are this high, you wait more. And now is it okay? It's okay if you always err on the side of caution when it comes to stuff like this. They have to. This is like the real definition of a dilemma. I've brought this up on this show before, Stephen A. People misuse the word dilemma. They take it as a hard choice. A dilemma means a choice between two bad options. You got to choose one. So I agree with you. If he rests, it's not a great option. But the other option is worse. You're going to have to play chess sometimes and sacrifice some pieces. You got to do it. You got to sacrifice some pieces if you're trying to win. And the pieces that they're going to have to sacrifice right now is some games in the standings. You know, maybe if you're on the second half of that bracket, on the wrong side of that bracket, it's possible that things work out, that you're going to have to play the Clippers, the Suns, and the Jazz in these playoffs to get out of the West. Ooh, that's a whole lot. But right now, you're 5. You know who's 4? The Nuggets. And without Jamal Murray, Nuggets can't beat you. Nuggets can't beat the Lakers without, by the way, with Jamal Murray, I wouldn't say, I still take the Lakers at full strength, but you got to bite your nails on that one. But no Jamal Murray, they're going to be fine. Nuggets are good, but they're not that good without Jamal Murray. And so the most important thing, Stephen A., is not to wind up in a James Harden situation. We maybe brought him back. We tried a little too much, a little too soon. Most important thing is you saw how careful they were with AD. And I like what I'm seeing from AD so far. The rust is there, you're right. And he's been out a long time, right? But he looks athletic to me when he's on the floor. That's the most important thing, because he has enough runway to get the other stuff back. But you're right. It would be ideal if the guy who's running your offense, LeBron James, had more time getting ready for the playoffs to ramp up and get in sync. Stephen A., he just may not. I would make that sacrifice. I would sacrifice that piece in this chess game. I would make that tough choice for a bad option to avoid a worse situation, which is LeBron comes back a little too soon, and he's never quite right. They won't get out of the West if that happens.
Well, I can't argue with that in terms of doing everything you can, taking every safety precaution necessary for LeBron James. What I would tell you, however, is let me highlight the other side. Anthony Davis last night scored 17 points against Dallas in their last game. He was on 26% shooting from the field, 0% from three-point range, 0 for 6. He played 28 minutes. Now, obviously, we know he's rusty because we know that doesn't happen to Anthony Davis when he's healthy and he's in the groove. But the fact that LeBron is not on the court puts more emphasis on Anthony Davis needing to be on the court. And when that happens, you never know what kind of trouble that could cause. And so these are all the kind of things that I think that we need to think about here. They got Ben McLemore back in the, we didn't hear from him for a couple of years, but he's back in the, he's back in the NBA, and, he dropped 20 for the Lakers last night and all of that stuff. And Andre Drummond is averaging 11 and 10, and we get that. And we see some of the other pieces. But again, considering the level of competition in the Western Conference, the later you come back, the more rusty you will appear. And I don't know if the Lakers can afford that in this year's Western Conference.
Not as part of the debate, but it's funny you bring up McLemore or you look at Nick Batum. Isn't it amazing, Stephen A., how some of these dudes just don't seem motivated on losing teams or bad situations? And as soon as they get to L.A. and they got a chance to win, it's like, oh, where'd that dude been? Welcome back. Welcome back, Nick Batum.
I told you Blake Griffin wasn't motivated in Detroit. He's clearly motivated now. Made some good plays yesterday for Brooklyn. Obviously had a dunk, moving without the basketball, rebounding, hitting a 3 here or there as well. Blake Griffin is reminding us that the brother can still play. We didn't see much of that in Detroit, but I took lost to the Toronto Raptors because of right ankle soreness. It's the same ankle that he hurt against Atlanta over 40 days ago, which caused them to miss 20 games. And when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers right now, they're out of sync. And when you got to take into account Frank Vogel, Max, the defense is ranked number 2 in the NBA. Frank Vogel is known as an elite defensive coach. That's what he is. Mm-hmm. He's never been accused of that offensively. Mm-hmm. So that means that the offense, which is ranked 23 at this particular moment in time, it's really in the hands of LeBron James. He's your point forward. Now, Dennis Schroeder was out last night, the COVID protocols and all of this other stuff, which obviously frustrates a lot of players because too many players this year have gone through that. but I don't think he makes that much of a difference if LeBron James is not healthy. LeBron James is not healthy. He looks like a shell of himself. And without him, the offense ain't just what it used to be. Anthony Davis is averaging 21 and 8 this season, 50% shooting from the field, but only 26% shooting from three-point range. If you look at the way teams are playing in the National Basketball Association, particularly in the Western Conference, they're going to get a little bit physical with you. He's got to be able to make his perimeter shots in order to be the Anthony Davis we know and love, because without that, it's going to be just too tough with Phoenix, with Utah. Even though the Clippers have lost 3 straight, we can't eliminate them. The Denver Nuggets have won 5 straight. This is why Jokic is the MVP right now, the leading candidate for the MVP. There's just too much formidable opposition in the Western Conference for LeBron to be less than 100%. Both him and AD are less than 100%. And as far as I'm concerned, if the playoffs were to begin right now, I wouldn't pick the Los Angeles Lakers to even make the conference finals.
Neither would I if the playoffs start right now, but they don't. I'm staying with the Lakers. Am I nervous? Yeah.
Okay.
And you know I'm a Lakers fan. But
yeah, you're a trader. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right.
You're a trader.
That's
right.
That's right. Sold the Knicks out. When Dolan sells the team, we can talk.
Okay.
The point is, the Lakers still have LeBron and AD. And the real alarming thing that LeBron said, though he said something like this in the past, is he doesn't know if he'll ever be 100% again. He doesn't think he'll ever be 100% again. Whoa, LeBron, what are you saying? I'm going to take that as a dude who's really frustrated right now, who sat out all that time to make sure it was okay, came back and like, wait, did I hurt myself again? Well, is this just pain or is this an injury I'm dealing with? But guys, when they are healthy, if they can get healthy, they're still the best team in the West. This is the defending champs who, gentlemen, swept the Western Conference last year. No one took them to a Game 6 in the West. And they got better, at least on paper, not only in the offseason, but after the trade deadline. You talk about, can Anthony Davis's body hold up to the rigors of the playoffs? They have Andre Drummond. Like, they have guys. The problem used to be they don't have enough starters, really. They have 2 superstars, maybe one other starter and shooter, and everyone else is a rotation guy. Andre Drummond is better than just a starter. No, they got guys now. The whole issue is the health. And Stephen A., this whole string of games they're playing, I know. They lost to a team playing the second of back-to-back, right? The Raptors, who are not going to make the playoffs probably, go on a West Coast swing, lose to Denver, lose to the Jazz, and then beat the Lakers playing their 3rd game in 4 nights. As a Lakers fan, oh, my God. But the rest of this season, the next 10 games, the next 3 weeks almost, this is just the run-up to the playoffs. All the Lakers have to worry about, forget about where they're seated, get healthy.
Hold on.
They have enough time.
I have a couple questions. One, do you actually believe LeBron at face value, or do you think they're just trying to play some games here and set the bar low?
I think he's lying when he says that he doesn't know if he'll ever be 100% again.
Yeah.
I think that's a bit of hyperbole there. But I do think that he's alluding to this season because, again, he does make a legitimate point when he talks about you have to get out there and play because particularly with the kind of season this is with COVID-19, you don't get practice time. So you can't get 5-on-5 live action and what have you. You don't know how you're going to feel until you go out there and play.
Yeah.
And if he, at age 36 in his 18th season, he's measuring himself against what he knows he's accustomed to feeling. So if you're out there and you're feeling this soreness after 40 days off, 20 games, and you're still feeling soreness when you go out there, it's kind of scary in that regard. Also, we got to remember, it's a 3-way tie for that 6th seed.
That's what I was going to say. What about the seeding? How bad is this? Can that really affect them?
It's very bad because what happens is that now you're talking about the fact that he can't get himself healthy because the Lakers have shown an inability to win games when he's out. They were 8-13 with him out of the lineup.
That's recent. They're about 500 until recently.
Well, yeah,
they started sliding recently.
But he still wasn't back is all I'm trying to say. He still wasn't back. And so without him, you're struggling. And then you get to a point where you sit back, you're going like this. I can't afford to be out because I don't have confidence that we can win without me during these regular season games, which means he had to come back in there, which is why Brad Turner and others covering the team the way that they do. One of the first questions they asked him was, do you think you came back too early? That's why they asked that question.
Well, look, they were doing fine really until AD got back more or less. And then the problem is they have to figure out how to reintegrate the second most important piece on the team in AD. And now it's LeBron. So the question is only for me, number one, are they healthy? Right? And then do they have enough time? I say, yes, they have enough time. Even if LeBron has to pull back a little bit. You got to pull back his minutes. They have just enough time right now to get into a rhythm before the playoffs. I do think they have that time. And then if they do, I'm not saying I'm picking them against the Western Conference. I'm saying I'd make them the odds-on favorite because until I see otherwise, LeBron's considered the best player in basketball. AD, when last seen, was tearing it up in the playoffs and finals. They've gotten better since then. They're my favorites.
Well, listen, you got Kyle Kuzma saying Marc Gasol should be playing. Marc Gasol was just starting center, and now he's third string behind Drummond and Montrezl Harrell. So you got that as a problem. So you got players looking at things schematically. They're looking at personnel, the usage of personnel. There's a whole bunch of questions that prop up when you're not winning.
Look good. It makes the NBA look good because guess what? It shows that they ruffle the feathers and they're holding guys accountable. And some guys are going to be mad. LeBron James is not the only guy that's mad about the play-in tournament. I heard Luka Doncic and Mark Cuban complaining about it. But guess what? I actually love it because we all know throughout the history of the NBA towards the end of the season, it starts to get boring. People don't want to watch it. People are not engaged. But with the play-in, it holds everyone accountable. I look at last year, right before the bubble, when Damian Lillard came out and said, I'm not going to the bubble unless I have a chance to compete for a title or a chance to get into the playoffs. He actually embraced the play-in tournament and actually went out there and handled his business. So I love it. As a former player, throughout the course of a season, certain teams tend to relax and take games for granted. In this case, you can't do that anymore because you'll find yourself in this position. Now, who LeBron should be pissed off at, and y'all know LeBron is my brother. I've been knowing him since the age of 13, played with him for 2 years in Cleveland, et cetera, et cetera. But who he should be mad at is his teammates because before he got injured, they were a top 2 seed in the Western Conference. He should be mad at them for not holding the fort down.
For me,
it's a good point.
For me, here's my deal. I don't necessarily disagree with Perk. I wasn't a fan of the playing game because my attitude is that when you look at some of the teams, particularly teams that are below 500, I don't even want you in the playoffs. If you can't be 500 during the regular season, I don't even want you in there. I think there should be a rule against you being in the postseason if you're not even a 500 team. That's just my personal opinion. But upon further thinking about this, I don't really have a problem with it because I hear where Perk's coming from and where Max has come from in the past in terms of teams being held accountable and not being able to take those nights off. Here's what I will say that does make LeBron not look so good about this position. You weren't saying this when y'all were a top 2 seed. You're saying it now. You see what I'm saying? You're saying it now because you find yourself having to compete to avoid bubble play. And that's something that he needs to reflect upon. And like Perk said, you should be happy. You should be upset at your teammates because the Lakers should not be this bad without LeBron James. Yeah, you don't have to be what you were with him, but you could at least be a 500 team. They're like 8-14 in their last 22 games or so. That's unacceptable. The fact that you've fallen off to this degree should say something, particularly when you've played with LeBron enough, where even though he's the catalyst, Max, and he leads the way, you've been with him enough to know what you're supposed to be doing, even when he's not on the floor. And the fact that that doesn't appear to be the case and everything's a bit discombobulated, we got to look at Frank Vogel right now, but we also got to look at the rest of those players because you shouldn't be falling apart at the seams like this.
I want to address that before I answer the question. First of all, I don't agree with that because, Stephen A., when you have a chance to get 2 MVPs on your roster at the same time, you're going to always do it. And that means some of your other roster is going to be thin. You're not going to have a lot of starting caliber players. That was the Lakers. So they did a great job picking up Andre Drummond after the deadline, right, a buyout. And Dennis Schroeder is a starting caliber dude. But when you take the top heavy, where you put all your resources off a team, I thought the team did pretty well to stay afloat, keep their head above water, and basically be 500. Then AD got back. They got to reintegrate him. He's not 100% yet, and they started losing games. But I want to say, Perk, I think, as you would say, you are preaching the gospel this morning, brother. I think it's great that LeBron had that reaction. Normally, I would say, boy, if LeBron's going at the league like that, the league's got to examine what they're doing. In this case, he's making the NBA look great because what it shows you is even the best player in the world is biting his fingernails right now, right? He is on the edge of it. He's thinking, this league got me under pressure right now. Damn, I'm actually going to have to come back and care about part of the regular season. Well, there's a chance some team gets hot and beats us in a game, and then what's going to happen? I'm not in the playoffs? That's a disaster, right? So they got him under some pressure. What are the two biggest problems with the NBA? Which is, I think, the best league and the best game and all that. I grew up a baseball fan. NFL is king. But like the NBA, basketball's a perfect sport. The NBA is as good as it gets. But one of the reasons you love it is because the best team always wins a best of 7. That's the same reason, nothing's perfect, right? You take a little something away. Since it's more predictable than the NFL or baseball, that takes a little something away from the regular season. Now all of a sudden you can't take the regular season for granted. The best team in the league has a few injuries, and now all of a sudden they could be facing a play-in game. And in the playoffs, there's a little randomness injected. One and done in the tournament makes March Madness great. The NFL, a lesser team could beat a great team on any given Sunday. It makes the playoffs great. Baseball's random. It makes the playoffs great. The NBA, especially early in the playoffs, you know who's going to win. The 8's not going to beat the 1, right? But all of a sudden, the team that might have been the 1 is slipping because of injury, and they can get knocked out. It's great. LeBron's reaction makes the NBA look great.
Just think about this, right? Right now, it's less than 10 games left in the season. And to me, the playoffs has already started. So we're keeping an eye on a team like the Washington Wizards, who are at the 10th spot in the Eastern Conference, and
110 of their last 12.
Playoffs. Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal's must-see TV. Are we looking down the line? We looking at the Boston Celtics battle with the Atlanta Hawks to see if they go get in the playoff position. We're looking at the New York Knicks right now, who just hit a West Coast swing.
That's right.
Right? Who just did a West Coast, who's